Good morning. My name is Scott Redler, Chief Strategic Officer at T3Live.com.
And I'm Brittany Umar, and together we bring you Morning Call. So world markets are basically flat as some digestion takes place around the world. Our futures are basically flat as well after the spirited rally that we've seen since the beginning of September, and on a very somber day in our country as we recognize and remember on September 11th. So Scott, if we're talking about our markets, how do we handle the trade now?
As far as the S&P, I would think that we're a little bit overbought, the same way a lot of the world markets are overbought. You know, if we want to take a quick look at the FXI, which we've been talking about a lot here, you know, about the strength going on in the world markets, you look at the double bottom that took place in June and July, then you have this series of higher lows and then some really nice follow through. So with that said, you know, a pullback to the 8 and the 21 day would make some sense, maybe even retesting this trend line, and I think this area should be buyable. As far as, you know, the spiders, you know, or the S&P, you have a lot of gaps to trade against. You look at trends, here is your longer term trend line from November, got tested here on June, right around the 100-day, and then really on this, you know, decline that was triggered from this head and shoulders top pattern for various reasons, you know, we held the trend line again. And if you want to take a closer look, you will see that, you know, here we are holding the 100-day. This was one little area above 1641, and then we broke this, you know, descending trend line, and now we have a gap to look at. Okay, 168.26 would be an area that if we're really pent up, okay, we hold above it, go sideways, and if we do hold this and don't fill that gap, we're going to see new highs quicker than any bear would want. If we do fill this gap, I still don't think it's that big of a deal. You know, perhaps we retest this area into the moving averages, and then that would be probably a spot the bulls come and defend. But unfortunately, on a day like today, I feel like, you know, not everyone has trading on their mind, considering it's September 11th, and it's been about 12 years, you know, since the 9/11 attacks. Right. And you know, for everyone on Wall Street, I think, you know, for everyone around the world, it just, you know, some people don't want to think about it. I personally think that you should think about it today. I know for me, you know, I talked to you know, two guys on the ferry. One had his best friend, you know, pass away. He was telling me a story. The doorman downstairs was telling me a story how he was there. Like, everyone was there, and it didn't discriminate, you know, color, creed, however you want to put it. There was no politics. It was just, you know, a lot of death. So with that said, if you remember it, perhaps, and everyone doesn't forget, you know, we could put things in place so it doesn't happen again, where innocent lives are taken, and, you know, and for no good reason whatsoever. Right.
It will surely be on everyone's minds today. And as terrorism in itself has plagued our headlines as of late with talks about Syria, we did have President Obama speaking last night and addressing the nation about the situation in Syria. What did you think of his comments?
I just think that, you know, at this point, he really can't do much. You know, on Labor Day, he came out and he gave his speech on, you know, on condemning everything that took place, but he didn't decide to, you know, do any kind of military attack. Then he decided to kick it back to Congress. And now with the deal that Russia is saying about, you know, collecting all of the chemical weapons, he has to go with that. So I think at this point, you know what, we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it is peaceful and they collect all the chemical weapons and the UN takes it away and we don't have to worry about it, and the killing subsides there, because there's way too many people that have died there. You know, over 100,000 people have died. You have almost millions of refugees. But anyway, with that said, you know, he has to go with this. And I guess if there were to be another chemical attack, okay, and they break whatever rules they're talking about right now, you know, the next time he just has to act like the day after and just, you know, do something. Otherwise, they're just going to keep thinking they could do whatever they want.
Right. Well, obviously, with a lot going on in our worlds, it's difficult to just focus on the markets. But if we can bring it back to
the markets,
Sorry. Why don't we check in on world markets and then also parlay that into some stocks that have been acting well, because we saw Baidu act well yesterday.
Right. So with that said, with the digestion that we're starting to see take place, you want to see what happens with certain stocks. You want to make sure that, you know, they stay intact, the trend stays intact, and, you know, and then you could get continuation, because that's what traders are looking for: what to do, how to make money as a trader, and also investors who want to stick with the trend. And Baidu has been it's been acting much better. We've talked about it many times, and if you look here at the chart, you know, it ignited above this area, which was a really nice gap to trade it against. Then it just put in some sideways support at the 21-day, started to break above this little area, and now, looks like it's going to make new 2013 highs. So as far as Baidu is concerned, stock's acting much better, and it's something to stay with.
We also saw Facebook have 2 days of rest after Friday's breakout. Do you think it's getting ready to pick up momentum again?
Well, these names that have been so pent up, when you get the dip, sometimes you're afraid to buy them because it could turn into a bigger dip, but when they do hold where they have to, they're explosive again. And with Facebook, it's been one of the go-to names since earnings. If you accumulated it during the cup and handle pattern, congratulations. If you waited till after earnings, there were a lot of tradable moves. So the question is, do we have another one here? This was the gap up after earnings, huge gap, a lot of pent-up momentum. Here's a trigger buy right there. Then it went sideways, and look where this was in August when the market corrected, held above the 21-day, very strong, another buyable area. And then your last little buyable pivot was right around here, above the 42.30. So, you've had 2 days of weakness in the face of a stronger market. So, you want to note that. But again, it's just letting the 8-day catch up. And if it continues to just follow the 8-day, this is a spot where you want to, looking to buy, especially if it reverses on it. If it closes below it, then it changed a little bit, and then perhaps you see a bigger retracement down to the 21 days. So for now, support 1, support 2, this stock has been very strong.
Yes, these are all stocks that are acting well and could see continuation potentially. And when we often talk about Facebook, we often talk about LinkedIn in the same sentence. I mean, it's been digesting its recent breakout as well and continuing to hold the 8-day.
It goes, it digests, it goes, it digests, it gaps up. Great vehicle for investors, for traders that, traded a little bit more intermediate term, lots of nice little setups. Last setup was when they announced the offering. People thought game over, but it was a buying opportunity for those prepared. Now you look at the chart, still intact, still trending above the 8-day, almost just like Facebook. Here was that last little move, on that day of the offering, holding hot, sideways. For those looking for something tactical, above this little level of 254, it can continue. Been following the 8-day above the 21-day, since the summer almost. So with that said, very strong stock. Just a quick little peek, because I always like to show this pattern because patterns do repeat themselves. Here was the pattern that we were talking about, this cup and handle pattern with the channel. And these type of accumulation patterns are typically good for big time moves, especially when it's a new issue to start under accumulation. And there it went. And then here it went again. And I know up here people say, oh my goodness, how could you continue to buy it? Be a little careful, and as a trader, though, this is what you like. You like nice, tight patterns that continue a trend, and then if it triggers above, you go after it.
And we talked about Chipotle in yesterday's morning call, and it did break out. It soared 1.6% and actually made a new high at 419 and closed on high, so maybe we'll get some continuation today.
Yes, and these are the type of things traders are looking to do. Consolidation, go. Consolidation, go. And every time it happens, you have to be a little skeptical because sometimes they fail, but as long as they're not failing and they're working, go with what's working. And if you look at Chipotle, CMG, you'll see, it started to go yesterday. I know Sperling was on this one and looks pretty good. So this was a breakout move yesterday, and if it goes above yesterday's high today, you'll probably see some continuation through 419. Overall, it's been hugging the 8 and 21 day. I know some big guys out there were talking about shorting this, and I guess they didn't do so well. Overall, very nice name, right back into this old resistance, so maybe it takes a little bit of time, but this too has been a great vehicle, especially since this last year's lows.
And another example, Zillow gained more than 2.7% yesterday and closed on highs as well. So another one for your radar.
Yes, and this one Sperling's been all over again. He's all over the movers. Like for those of you on the virtual trade floor, that are always looking for action, you typically look at his VTF, and he's usually in somewhere between 10 and 30 positions. That's how you get a gauge on what's going on in the market. He likes to hold a lot of them. When they start working, he adds, he talks about it on the radio. He does a very good job finding the action. Everyone's a bit different. For me, I typically go between 4 and 7 positions or so. So, with that said, Zillow's been something he's been watching. You look at the chart, and you will see another nice setup. Okay, this is, I think he was in the Hamptons, lucky him, when this happened, and he was holding it like an investor. Shows that you don't have to be at your desk and you can still make money with something breaking out. Then what did it do? It went sideways, held the 8-day, and now look, another nice little setup. So above this 100, it could continue. This has been a really strong stock, and something traders been gravitating towards. And if you're an investor, and again, look at this, probably a new, oh, what a coinky dink, a new issue from a year or two ago. Really, your trigger was when it cleared this prior, high of the IPO to get in. And even if you waited for that, you still got from 60 and change almost to 100.
All right, nice job, Spurls. All right, so coming up, we're going to go in the trenches with some ag stocks that took some time to repair some losses yesterday and had a nice move up. But we're going to take a quick commercial break real quick.
I'm Mark Sperling, Director of Trading with T3 Trading Group and contributor to T3 Live. Do you trade on your own, but you wish you enjoyed the benefits of a large trading floor? With the T3 Live virtual trading floor, we deliver that experience to you on your computer. On the VTF, you can follow the long and short positions of experienced professional traders like myself, Scott Redler, and others, and listen to our live radio stations as we navigate the markets. In addition, you get the added value of a large community of sophisticated and like-minded traders. Your membership to the virtual trading floor also includes access to our two very popular newsletter products, Off the Charts and the Price Point Sheet at no additional cost. In my opinion, joining the room will be the best trading decision you will ever make. I would like to invite you to begin your membership with a 7-day free trial. To get started, visit t3live.com and click on the Virtual Trading Floor tab. Have a great day, and I look forward to seeing you in the VTF.
We're back and going in the trenches with ag stocks that had a nice move up to repair some losses yesterday. We had Potash, which just had a nice 3-day move and rose another 3.6% yesterday.
Right, well, these stocks have been annihilated. So with that being said, if you haven't been caught in the annihilation, which is a bad word, I actually shouldn't be using that word around the whatever, you see that there's opportunities when there's a big gap. And there's talk that Russia's now meddling into that, saying that they want to, squash the dispute, which people think is a catalyst, which it could be, But so far, it's been a nice trade. You look at POT, the stock has been battered and bruised. It was a $60 name back in 2011, and it channeled and broke below. And look at the size of the gap. So with that said, one man's, I guess, trash could be someone else's treasure, and it started to break above this area that we talked about, which was 31.89. And here's a nice move. It's pausing here at the 50-day, but maybe if it holds in there a little bit for a while, it can go again. Big gap to be filled, and if they ever did squash that dispute, maybe you get a little upside. As far as another name, Mosaic, it too as a trade on its way up, a bottom feeder type trade. But if you got involved yesterday or the day before when it poked its head above the gap, there was something to do there.
And CF Industries as well, right?
This one actually held it a little bit better. One of the big hedge fund guys have been accumulating. It came out a month ago. This one, it hasn't really moved the way some of the others recently, but it hasn't also been as hurt. I think overall, leadership-wise and more than a trade, I think this one is better. Okay, look at how it's knocking on the door. This 200, it's above the moving averages. It's above some resistance. So I think this is more of something you could probably buy and maybe put a stop in lower versus the other, which you have to be a little bit quicker as they've been more battered and bruised.
All right, well, time for some quick hits. We have to talk Apple after that big event yesterday. A lot of traders were looking for something to get excited about with those new phones. Seems, though, that a lot of people were pretty disappointed.
Well, I think people are not going to be disappointed with the phone. Wall Street was disappointed.
Solid product, right, but...
Like you have a 4S, are you going to get a new phone?
I would love a new phone, but I wasn't that excited to run out and buy the newest one.
Even as a consumer?
Even as a consumer.
All right, so sometimes you put a little bit of common sense into a situation, but overall, I think traders and investors were just upset that Tim Cook was who he was. Tim Cook, someone not exciting and no wow factor, nothing different. And the stock already had a pretty decent move into it. So the question was, what type of action were we going to see? I think people were a little upset about the margin compression on the pricing. They repriced it, so the margins are going to suffer, but then also it wasn't enough to make it that, I guess, buyable in China because it's still a lot of money for them. There was no deal last night. So with all that said, I try not to put too much into it. I look at the price action, and for me, the trade changed. Let me show you why. You go to the chart of Apple and you will see, here is this lower level, okay? This lower level that has been trying to build some type of support. You did get a double bottom right here. On a micro level, you had this descending trend line change when it gapped above and then showed support. And then really this is when I got excited on the earnings. Okay, when it broke this downtrend, that's when we started to use it for multiple days versus just a few days. From there, you had a nice move, a pullback to the 8-day, and then this was actually when it took back the 200-day, the Carl Icahn news, and then you had some follow-through. So the question is, what type of digestion were you going to get up here? Were we going to get a move through 513 up to 540, which could have taken place? You know what? It didn't. We trade real time. So for me, if you look a little bit closer, I was looking to see if it could hold, okay, above this gap, go sideways and go. That was the trade I was looking for. It did not happen. So when we went below 503.50, which was yesterday or 2 days ago low, I said, you know what, it's not pent up. I'm going to see how it plays out. So that's when I got away from it. Okay, and then later in the afternoon, it got very beat up. Technically, a very potent engulfing bar that should have gotten quick intermediate guys out of it. Okay, if that's what you do. Some unfortunately probably took it home because they thought it was going to have some kind of news, with China, based on what an analyst said, 99% chance. But anyway, but I didn't, or whatever. Anyway, with that said, it's getting followed through to the downside. Okay, one of the luxuries of being on the VTF too is, you get to see, if you come back to me, what guys are doing. Okay, and for me, I came in long Apple on the VTF, and then people were able to see it disappear. So that means they get to track the trade. Even for Mark Sperling, who tends to have a lot of positions, okay, you don't see him having Apple overnight either. He has some options, but that's a different time frame trade. So anyway, with that said, you go back to the chart and you look at the level here. It closed pretty bad considering it engulfed all these days, and now it's opening very weak. So with that said, if you did get stopped out, maybe there'll be some kind of opportunities today. 471 is a really big level. Okay, and then you have the moving averages coming up right here, so even lower is 463. If you want to do one other thing on here, just as far as Fibonacci retracements, and this quick hit's turning into a very, very long hit, but it is Apple, and people do care a lot about it. You have the 0.38% retracement from the low of June comes in around 466, which is right where it broke out, the day of the icon news. So that could be something to look at. But again, this trade has changed, and it's not pent up. Now you just have to figure it out. If you want to also draw, some type of trend line here, it all matches up right around 466. So that'll be a key level moving forward.
All right, I won't give you a hard time about that being a long hit because it's Apple.
Yes.
People want to know about it. They also know about Tesla. Had a nice move yesterday, found support of the 21-day on Monday, and then was able to gain 3.5% yesterday.
Yep, and it had a big upgrade yesterday after holding above the 21-day. You just look at the trend here. Strong stocks, high valuation names. You want to make sure they follow the trend, and this one's been following the 21-day ever since 2 quarters ago. Here, it held it. Here, it broke below it for a day. And then that red dog reversal was a nice entry before digesting higher and continuing right there. And then, it broke this little area, a few days back. But what did it do? It held above the 21-day. Yesterday was a nice trade. It's opening up a little bit today. And we'll see how long it stays in this upper area to see if it becomes a momentum trade, kind of like its friend NFLX, which had a little bit of a pull-in, and then boom. So we'll see how that, pans out over the next few sessions.
Also looks like we saw some constructive behavior out of 3D Systems yesterday. It was able to close back above the 8-day.
Yeah, and this one didn't have a powerful breakout like some would have thought, but it's still holding in there. So it's something to have on the radar. You look at Triple D, you'll see big channel, multiple months, broke out here. It's been just a little lethargic, holding around here. So at this point, as long as it stays above this breakout area, I think it'll be on traders' radars. And if it starts to, break above, 53.70 with volume, I think it's something that could get a nice momentum move into 2013 highs.
All right. So what are your closing thoughts as we head into the trading session?
I just think that today, as far as the overall market, you're going to probably get some digestion. It could be a little bit downside digestion. I think there are a lot of gaps from yesterday in the market that active guys could trade against. If these gaps hold up, I do think the tape will continue to be pent up and the action will be faster. If the gaps start to get filled, maybe we digest and correct a little bit further, and then we figure out spots that should hold if the bulls want to keep control, and right now they do have control. So trade your time frame. Today, if you're remembering 9/11, and you were affected, just don't be, remember it. It's like I feel like people are trying to push it out, but if people keep pushing out of their minds, it could happen again. If you remember it, you stay focused and you try and put things in place where it can't happen again.
Well, and with that said, happy trading and have a great day.